In the heart of a small but lively town called Lingua, nestled between rice fields and winding roads, lived a humble young man named Jin Ho. At 29, Jin Ho worked as a math teacher at the local middle school. He was loved by his students for his gentle voice and funny stories, and respected by his neighbors for always helping out. But Jin Ho had a secret. Every month, when his salary arrived, it felt like a gust of wind, swift and gone. He would pay the rent, buy groceries, help his little sister Mei Lin with her college books, and send a small envelope to his aging father in the countryside. Before he even had time to breathe, his wallet was empty again. One rainy evening, Jin Ho sat on his bamboo mat, sipping hot tea. The roof leaked in the corner of his room, dripping like a slow reminder of his financial state. "I work hard," he whispered to himself. "But why does it always feel like I'm running in circles?" His best friend, Takeshi, often teased him. "You're too kind, Jin Ho. You need to think of yourself sometimes." But Jin Ho couldn't help it. Growing up with a widowed father who gave everything for the family, Jin Ho learned early how to give. But he never learned how to keep, even just a little, for himself. That night, as the storm outside grew louder, so did the questions in Jin Ho's mind. What if he got sick tomorrow? What if the school closed down? What if his sister needed more help? He had no answers, only worry. He looked at the calendar. Another payday was coming soon, but something deep inside him stirred. Maybe this time, just maybe, he could try something different. Maybe he could try saving, even just a little. He didn't know it yet, but this small thought would become the seed of a powerful change. The next morning, the sun crept in through the paper window, gently warming Jin Ho's face. He sat up slowly, the soft scent of jasmine tea still lingering in his room from last night. It was a Sunday, quiet, calm, and filled with the kind of stillness that made memories rise to the surface. As he folded his blanket and swept the floor, Jin Ho opened an old wooden box tucked beneath his bed. Inside were small tokens of his past: a faded red ribbon from his school days, a photo of him and Mei Lin standing in front of their childhood home, and a folded piece of paper with his mother's handwriting. He carefully unfolded it. The ink had faded, but the words were still there. His heart tightened as he read. "Jin Ho, always remember, pay yourself first, even if it's one coin. Save before you spend. That's how you stay strong when the winds come." His mother had passed away when he was just 16. She worked as a seamstress, stitching clothes for others while raising 2 children alone. Life had been hard, but she always seemed to have something tucked away for emergencies. A secret tin of coins under the floorboard, a hidden envelope with notes for school fees. Jin Ho never understood how she did it. But now, her words echoed louder than ever. He whispered them aloud. "Pay yourself first." For the first time, those words didn't just sound like a rule, they felt like love. A quiet kind of love. A lesson passed down, not just to survive, but to grow, to live with peace. That afternoon, he walked to the market to buy vegetables. As he paid the vendor, he looked at the change in his palm. One coin stood out, a shiny silver 10 yuan piece. Without thinking too much, he slipped it into his pocket instead of spending it. "I'll keep this one," he murmured. That single act felt small, but Jin Ho smiled. It was the first time he had ever saved for himself. He didn't know it yet, but he had just started to listen to his mother's voice. Not just with his ears, but with his life. The sun was already dipping below the rooftops of Linghua when Jin Ho received the call. He had just returned from school, his satchel still slung over his shoulder, when his phone buzzed. It was his sister, Mei Lin. Her voice trembled. "Gege, I'm at the clinic. They say I need tests. I fainted during class." Jin Ho's heart dropped. He ran. The clinic was a short ride away on his bicycle, but it felt like miles. His hands gripped the handlebars tightly, and thoughts raced through his mind like a thunderstorm. When he arrived, Mei Lin was sitting on a bench, pale and exhausted. A nurse handed him a slip. 40,000 for blood tests and medications, the nurse said gently. Jin Ho looked down at the slip. His wallet had only a few thousand left, barely enough to buy dinner, let alone cover medical bills. His salary wasn't due for another 10 days. He felt a wave of shame and helplessness. The nurse looked at him kindly. "You can come back tomorrow, but don't delay too long." That night, Jin Ho sat beside Mei Lin in their small apartment. She had managed to walk home, but her eyes were tired, her body weak. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Jin Ho shook his head. "No, don't say that." But inside, he was crumbling. He had always been the one to fix things, to smile, to show strength. But now he felt like a man with empty hands, unable to protect the one person he loved most. He thought of the 10 yuan coin in his pocket. It wasn't enough. And yet it burned like truth. A truth he had ignored for years. You can't help anyone if you never help yourself first. As Mei Lin fell asleep on the couch, Jin Ho sat by the window, watching the moon rise. His thoughts were heavy, but his decision was becoming clear. The next morning, before the town fully woke, Jin Ho made a vow. "I will never be this helpless again." The next morning, Jin Ho arrived at the bank early, long before the doors opened. He stood in line with farmers, shopkeepers, and other workers, all waiting quietly, holding forms, hopes, or worries in their hands. Jin Ho clutched a folded withdrawal slip. But he wasn't here to take money out. He was here to borrow. He had never taken a loan before. The thought of owing money made him uneasy. But Mei Lin's health came first. The hospital had called to remind him about the pending tests. They would not wait forever. When his turn finally came, he stepped into the small office where a young banker named Ms. Lin greeted him. He explained his situation quickly, keeping his voice calm even as his palms sweated. Ms. Lian listened politely, then turned to her computer screen. "I'm sorry, Mr. Jin," she said after a long pause. "Your account doesn't qualify for a personal loan. You don't have any savings history or collateral." Jin Ho blinked. "But I've worked at the school for years." "Yes," she nodded kindly. "But we base approvals on savings behavior and credit records. I see none here." The words hit him like a slap. He nodded stiffly, thanked her, and walked out, his legs heavy and heart heavier. Outside, he sat on the stone bench beneath a cherry blossom tree. The petals were falling gently around him, but there was no beauty in his eyes, only quiet humiliation. He had always believed that working hard would be enough, that being good to others would somehow keep life's storms away. But kindness doesn't pay hospital bills. Hard work without savings is like carrying water in a basket, noble but pointless. A little boy passed by, chasing fallen petals, laughing freely. Jin Ho watched him and suddenly remembered something his mother once said. "Even a strong man can fall, but a wise man learns how to stand again." Jin Ho knew this moment, this sting, was his fall. Now it was time to learn how to stand again. This time differently. This time with a plan. After several weeks of working hard, doing menial jobs as well as developing his forex trading skills, Jin Ho stood outside the hospital office, hands damp with worry. Mei Lin's treatment had reached a critical stage, and the final payment loomed like a storm cloud, 6,000 yuan, due within the week. For a moment, the old helplessness tried to creep in. But this time, he wasn't the same Jin Ho. That night, back home, he unscrewed the lid of his savings jar. The familiar clinking sound of coins tumbling into his hand was almost like music. He counted, piece by piece, every yuan he had stashed away, painfully, patiently, for the past few months. He had saved 4,000 yuan. It wasn't enough, but it was a mountain compared to the nothingness he used to hold. He swallowed his pride and called Mr. Song, the elderly shop owner whose son he tutored for free months ago. Jin Ho explained his situation. Mr. Song didn't hesitate. "You gave without asking before. Now it's my turn." Within 48 hours, the remaining 2,000 yuan was in his hand. He returned to the hospital and settled the bill in full. Mei Lin's treatment continued without pause, her recovery no longer at risk. Jin Ho walked out of the building that day, not just as a brother, but as a man who had tasted the power of intentional saving and self-respect. As Mei Lin healed, she noticed the quiet shifts in their lives. Jin Ho no longer brought random gifts or overspent to cheer her up. Instead, he brought her peace, security. One morning, she left a small brown envelope on the table with a note. "I've been saving too. Not much, but it's a start." Inside were a few bills, 300 yuan, and the beginnings of a new habit. Together, they created a family jar, next to Jin Ho's personal one. They tied a red ribbon around the lid, calling it their hope jar. It wasn't for emergencies. It was for the future. Every month, they each dropped 10% of their earnings inside. Jin Ho from his growing side jobs, Mei Lin from her small remote tasks. But challenges still came. One evening, Jin Ho met up with old friends, Li Wei and Han. They laughed, drank, and reminisced. But soon, the jokes turned to pressure. "Why save so much? You're single. Enjoy now." He smiled, but he knew pleasure without purpose was a trap. When they couldn't pay the bill, Jin Ho settled his portion and left. "I'm walking a different road now," he said softly. Opportunities came too. Mr. Liang, his school head, offered him a full-time position, steady pay, more security, but also less time for tutoring and planning the future he was carving for himself. He didn't jump. He paused, reflected, and chose growth over comfort. Freedom, he told Mei Lin, comes not from earning more, but from keeping more. From making money serve your dreams, not your fears. One crisp morning, Mei Lin danced into the room, waving a letter, a scholarship for Jin Ho, an opportunity to study advanced education methods in the city, full tuition, housing included. "You've been seen," Mei Lin said, beaming. "All your hard work, all your choices." Jin Ho looked at the family jar, now almost full. "We saved coins," he whispered, eyes misty, "and built a life." They never became rich overnight. There were still months where money was tight and choices were hard, but there was always peace. Because they learned that wealth was not in how much you made, but how much you kept, how much you grew, and how much you valued the little things. And so Jin Ho and Mei Lin's legacy began, not with big wins or lottery tickets, but with discipline, dignity, and the humble decision to pay yourself first, always. And that is the story of Jin Ho and Mei Lin, a story of struggle, sacrifice, and silent strength, but above all, a story of growth. Before we end, here are 5 powerful lessons to carry with you. Lessons that turn their jar of coins into a future full of possibilities. 1. Pay yourself first. Save before you spend, even if it's just a little. 2. Save consistently. Small steps every day lead to big victories. 3. Discipline brings freedom. What you delay today becomes your strength tomorrow. 4. Give without expecting. Kindness always circles back. 5. Wealth is a shared journey. Grow it with your family, not alone. If you took even one thing away from this story, don't let it end here. Start your own hope jar. Commit to saving just 10% of what you earn. Start today, even if it's coins. Tell us in the comments, what inspired you most from Jin Ho's journey? Smash that like button if you believe saving can change lives. Subscribe for more powerful stories that inspire action. And share this video with someone who needs hope and a plan. Because like Jin Ho learned, you don't need to be rich to build wealth. You just need to start with heart.
Waking up at dawn, light breaking through, chasing dreams, no time to lose. In this race we strive and grind, motivation fuels the mind. Gonna rise up, we won't fall, breaking barriers through it all. Step by step our journey's clear, success is closer, don't you fear. Challenges we face headstrong, in this rhythm